My name is Beth McDaniel. I am VP of Product with InnerActiv, and we are a cybersecurity software focusing on endpoint DLP and insider threat. Over my 13 years with the product and just in the industry in general, we've seen a lot of shifts. When I first started, products like ours, cybersecurity products, tended to be very dense and engineering focused. So our goal from the beginning was we wanted to make the UI and the UX very accessible and clear to users and break that trend. So we found ourselves at the time struggling against the limits of technology. But now, in the past few years especially, we've had so many innovations come up with web application technology, integrations with mobile visualizations that we can finally start to move forward and realize some of those goals that we had for the products in the beginning. To build engagement and trust, one of our major goals is to make the data itself trustworthy. DLP and security tools in general in our space have this reputation for being very noisy. Tends to be a lot of false positives. There's a lot of information coming into the console that people don't necessarily know how to deal with. So in our most recent version, we're actually including not just risk scoring of events to help users determine how risky an event is, but we're also including confidence scoring in that's going to let the user know how we have evaluated it and give a confidence rating so that they can hopefully make the data more explainable and also more trustworthy. We do. And actually, user feedback is probably one of the most core components to us. We have been very fortunate, especially in the past few years, to partner with some industry experts and have some IT pros that will consult with us. And they're in a very wide variety of spaces, everything from financial, manufacturing, government agencies. And they're the ones that have the real knowledge about how the product is being used on a day-to-day basis. So we really need to consult with them to understand that, because even though we understand the industry, we're not the ones that actually have the hands on the gears every day. So their input is really crucial. And we've discovered through talking to them a lot of kind of hidden needs or certain features that are not being covered by other software in the industry. So we've been able to work to make that a part of the UX in our product. We do have a very broad user base, which is one of our challenges, but also an opportunity for us because we have to make sure that the system caters to that wide variety of individuals. And the number one thing that we have to keep in mind for everybody, which has again been one of our challenges, is security, because the nature of our product is that we are gathering all of this very critical information, we're analyzing it, and we're providing risk information to the analysts. So that risk information, by its own nature, is full of sensitive, sometimes confidential data. So we really have to be careful in everything we do that we structure our UI and our entire system to keep that data secure. So whether it's somebody that is a medium retailer or if it's a government agency or a global company, whoever they are, they're still going to get that top grade end-to-end encryption. They've got the layers of permission and security over top of that data that we're collecting. We've even put in our newest version an option for analysts to communicate inside of our platform, so they don't have to take the data out. So that's something that we've really put a lot of focus on to cover that wide variety of users with a wide variety of data. Sure. So we have a significant development side of the house, obviously, that where I stand, I essentially have 1 foot over with the development side. I meet with the development staff every day to talk about, especially right now with our new release coming up, about where we are, what features are included, how those features are working, all of those items. And then the other side that I work with significantly is going to be sales. So we have a channel director and our CISO as well kind of works in that space to talk about where we are with customers, what their needs are. Our gal that's head of channel sales will talk a lot with those customer experts with me, those industry experts, to kind of keep that feed going. So that's kind of how my time is split, is between those two sides of the house there. Yeah, we do have someone that focuses on our marketing, and I do myself, and sales will work with them as well, to make sure that we have all of the, materials and documentation and everything that's needed, um, to for our partners, but then also customers too. So AI and machine learning and all of the related technologies there are a huge impact to us. Everything that we are doing right now, we are trying to pull in aspects of AI and machine learning. They are already pretty central to how we are analyzing and detecting some of the risks that we're seeing. But we are also working on bringing them into the UX and the UI a little bit more, so that they are more visible and more usable to the actual end user and the analysts. And there's a lot of things that we're looking at utilizing AI specifically for in that space, things like ways that we can summarize alerts or give, hopefully, predictive alerts on things that may be coming up based on the data we're receiving. And then also adapting the interface for different types of users. I mentioned that we have a wide variety of users and we want to be able to cater to all of them. But one thing that we see with AI is that we have to be very careful about how we're utilizing it, because it's very important, I think, in security to keep the human analyst involved in the process and not let AI make all those decisions, because some of those decisions can be very critical and they need a human interpretation. So we are really trying to strike that balance of providing feedback and visibility, but keeping the human at the final layer to make those critical decisions. It's so easy to say, oh, I'm just going to, let AI make the decisions. And in some cases, that's great. From what we're seeing with AI technology, there's still a big gap between where we are now and the spot where AI can really make a valid decision, the majority of the time on really important issues. So we don't want to make that leap quite yet. Everybody is pretty receptive to it, but I mean, I think our team, having been in cybersecurity and having seen security gaps in all products, all aspects of technology over the years, you kind of are going into it with that caveat of, I need to be careful with it. It's a big, there's a lot to gain from using AI and machine learning, but it also does create security gaps as well. One thing we've been coming across a lot is customers who have employees inputting highly sensitive information into AI platforms, which then kind of puts it out there into the collective. And, that's a big concern. So, for us internally and the way that we're considering it, we're definitely making use of it, but you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt as well. One of the things, I don't know that it's a pet peeve, but it is something that we're working with right now, is one of the trends, I think, in our space that we're seeing a lot as we are working on this big re-release of our UI and we're evaluating what is out there right now. One of the big trends we're seeing is the increase of use of 3D visuals and animated graphics, animated graphing, color coding, bright colors, things like that, which is very different from where it used to be, where it was very white and gray and engineering focused, right? And those things show very well. When people look at that, it looks very impressive. But then what we get from customer feedback is when people are actually in there using these systems, they're so overwhelmed by um, blinking lights and flashing colors and animations and the ability to manipulate these 3D visualizations that it can be very overwhelming, and it's very hard to get from that to the very straightforward data that they need. So that's something we're fighting against, where people are starting to expect to see these very bright animated visuals, but at the same time, the bottom line is you still have to be able to get to that data. So we're trying to strike that balance of making that data still there and available and not getting overwhelmed by the fun aspects of the UI. We have actually a great example of an item that we ended up adding to the product based on UX feedback that really took the product forward. And that came from working with a global company, and we had been installed with them for some time. But they had a very interesting situation where they had representatives accessing highly sensitive, high fraud risk data inside of thin clients. So essentially a remote session. And their existing security tools were not able to see inside of that remote session to where the data was actually being handled. So they really had this huge visibility gap. And they really had an unknown of what was happening there. So with our product, we were already gathering forensic information from our other policies that was able to see inside that remote session, and the forensic data was coming from that remote session. So we took that data that we already had, added a layer of analysis to it, and then fed it back through the system with signs of risk or potential fraud attached to it. This really closed that gap for them. They were ecstatic that they were finally, kind of for the first time, able to see those risks inside that remote session. And for them, that took that experience up a whole nother level of gaining that fraud information. And it went so well with their adoption rate that we are actually going to be adding a redone portion of that refined product to our new offering, where we'll have that ability within really any software or any UI that we can do analysis and pull out signs of fraud risk to it.
That's fantastic. Wow. And then that's like a client for life, hopefully.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very exciting, and it's something that happens a lot in their industry. A lot of their industry works that way.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure there's other industries that work that way as well. So it's a great opportunity to close that risk because, I mean, shortly after we added that, we were able to detect a huge fraud attempt going on from another country in that scenario. So it was really eye-opening to everyone involved.